By the way, I'm recording this para pwede nyo i-review, no? Um, just in case na makalimutan nyo yung some of the techniques na ituturo ko. Okay? Recording na ba? Oh, yeah. It's recording now. Okay? So, this is the workspace. If you're already, familiar with the tools and you find the top ribbon a little bit parang confusing or parang distracting, you can always remove the top ribbon, no? If you press Control 0, ang mangyayari is you have an immersive na mode, no? Na mawawala lahat ng tools sa taas. So, personally for me, I like to have it this way, no? Para mas makita ng students kung ano yung ginagawa in space, in the model space. Pero, if you have a large enough na screen, okay lang din naman na naka-retain yung top ribbon, no? Okay? So, ang gagawin natin today is all about tangents. And i-pull out ko lang yung So, we'll be doing first tangent lines lang muna. Then after tangent lines, we'll be getting tangent lines from a point to a arc. Tapos, we'll have internally tangent lines, then externally tangent lines. Then afterwards, externally tangent lines tayo given the radius of an arc. And we'll also do smooth curves. Tapos meron tayong challenge na gagawin afterwards. Where we will make full use of the concept of the loci, no? Yung tinuro ko, kailan ko ba tinuro yun? I think last week or kahapon nata, yung locus. Yun, gagamitin natin yung concept na yun. Okay? So, let's start with creating our sort of worksheet, no? Again, naalala ko paano i-create yung worksheet. To create the worksheet, ang gagawin natin is we create a rectangle. And make sure na if you're in the desktop version, change nyo lang yung units. I'm changing it to, if you type in units, makikita nyo yung current units na ginagamit. Maganda kung millimeters yung gamitin natin. Pagising naman. So, maganda kung ang gamitin natin is the millimeters. Okay? Para lahat ng ini-input natin is puro millimeters, no? Again, since this is infinitely scaling, kung hindi nyo nagawa tong step na to, okay lang din naman. Pero just for consistency, para pagka naglipat tayo ng files, kunwari you're working with multiple files, gusto nyo ilipat into one single file, para sure na tama yung scaling, I suggest na you always make the units as millimeters. Okay? Ay, hindi lumalabas. Sorry. Wait lang, Parang better ata if... Let me change. Ayan. Pangit pala yung kanina, no? Kasi hindi nakikita yung... I think this is better kasi pag nag-units ako, dapat... Kita nyo na yung pop dialog box? Nakikita na ba? Sorry. Ayun, nakikita na yung dialog box. Okay? So again, ang gusto natin is naka-millimeters itong na to, insertion scale natin. Ito. Tapos ito, this is just precisions, no? We can just stick with the defaults. Okay na to. Right? Let's press OK. Alright, so let's start with the worksheet. Diba, ang una natin ginawa was a rectangle that we placed at the origin, so 0, 0. Tapos gagawin natin, yung rectangle natin is 210 by 297. Tama? So that's the size of the A4 paper. Okay? So ito siya, ganyan. Tapos, ang ginawa natin is to create the borders, gumawa lang tayo ng dalawang squares. Isang 10 mm, 10 unit by 10 unit dun sa bottom left, tapos 10 unit by 10 unit dun sa top right. Okay, so let's do that. So, let's do 10 by 10, tapos another rectangle na 10 by 10 as well. Okay? Then, to complete the borders, ang ginawa natin was create a rectangle. and just snap the two together. Okay? Now that you have this, you can now delete the squares, no? Hindi na natin kailangan. The squares were just guide para ma-create yung border. Okay? Tapos, let's do the same na ginawa natin last time, no, na parang i-divide natin into 4 equal parts. So, what we did was we had midpoint enabled. So, pwede siguro for this case, we can have midpoint enabled kahit naka-off si center. Okay lang ba naka-off si center? Wait lang, ha. Now, we have center on, geometric center off, node on, quadrant, off lang muna natin. Intersection, okay lang na naka-on. Perpendicular, off lang muna natin. And we'll be needing tangents, no? Okay? I can teach you the long method. I can also teach you the short method which uses tangents, no? And both of which will produce the same results, no? So, for the plates, i-allow ko naman kayo na gamitin itong tangent. So, para hindi na kayo mag-long method. Pero ituturo ko pa rin para for appreciation sakes, no? Okay? So, naka-on si tangent. Tapos, nearest, i-off natin to kasi this will interfere, no? Apparent intersection, okay lang. So, just follow these settings muna. Itong gagawin natin. Nakikita naman, no? Yung settings ko. Endpoint, midpoint, center, node, intersection, and tangent. Pagka nakikita, wait lang, ha? Right? Okay, so like before, ang ginawa natin was we created 2 lines. One line going downwards and another line going from left to right. So we created 4 quadrants dito sa ano natin, workspace natin. Okay? Tapos ang ginawa natin was we took everything. Tapos kinopy natin siya. Pinili nating base point was the base point natin is the lower left. Then copy natin siya multiple times. I think we can do 4, no? 4 should be enough. Isip ko lang, ha. Yeah, 4 should be enough for this exercise. Then you can open the layers properties. Layers properties is accessed through layer. So you can just type in layer. Pwede rin siyang i-access dun sa top bar, no? Pero I'll just use the shortcut. Type in layer. Mag-open yung layer properties. Tapos ang gawin natin is I think we can now lock this layer. Lock natin siya. Tapos let's add a new layer. The add new layer is this one. Itong parang may star sa baba, no? Ito yung new layer. Or you can press Alt N. Tapos, let's do what we did before, no, na parang may construction layer tayo. And let's unlock the construction layer. And meron din tayong final answer layer. So, gawin ko lang yung same settings na ginawa ko before. Ang construction layer, ginawa kong teal. Tapos, I can add a transparency para medyo lighter siya than the other elements. What I'll do is, I'll add a transparency. Siguro 50% transparency is okay. Tapos, sa final answer, I'll make it such that yung line thickness niya is a little bit thicker. 0.3 will work. Tapos, I think okay na to. Yung default setting na to. So, whenever we're placing our given, sa 0 layer natin siya ilalagay. Kapag construction layers dito sa CL and final answer sa FA natin siya ilalagay. Okay? Alright. And lagay ko lang siya dito para pwedeng ma-access at any time. Okay? Now, what I also want to do, kasi by default hindi lalabas kasi yung yung mga size nung text natin or size nung yung thickness ng line. So, kailangan i-enable natin yung line weight display, no? So, to access line weight display, L weight yung ita-type natin. L weight. Type in L weight. Tapos, dito sa line weight settings, lumabas ba? Okay. Doon sa line weight settings, i-check nyo yung display line weight. Okay? Click nyo lang display line weight para yung final answer natin would be thicker than the other ones. Okay? Alright? Tama ba yung ginawa ko? Default 0.3. Okay? LW display na lang. I-try mo LW display. Tapos, i-switch mo to on. Kung wala yung L weight, for Mac users, wala silang L weight, LW display yung i-type nyo. LW display. Tapos, change nyo from off to on. So, yun. It should work na. Tapos, ang gawin ko is, you can have the grid lines, no? Pero for me, medyo, sometimes, siya, no? Parang distracting yung grid lines. I want the grid lines off. Pwede nyo i-click lang to, no? Itong grid mode, you can just click it. If you don't want the grid lines, no? If you feel that it's distracting. Pero kung tingin nyo nakakatulong naman yung grid lines, then by all means, just leave it on, no? Ako, parang hindi ko masyado siyang gusto. So, ino-off ko yung grid lines ko. Okay? Another way to turn off the grid lines is to type in grid. Tapos, click nyo lang kung anong gusto nyo. So, on, off, snap, major. Ang gusto natin is either naka-off or on lang. So, again, I'm just opting to turn it off. No? Okay? So, the first one we'll do is yan ko lang, no, yung kodigo ko. Is this one. Wherein we want a line tangent to a given arc passing through a point on the arc. Which is quite simple, no? So, ang gagawin natin is, we have an arc. And let's create an arc by pressing A. Tapos C for center. And let's just create a random arc dito, no? I'll just make it something like this. Parang ganyan. Tapos, I'll mark the center of the arc. And you can mark the center of the arc by pressing PO. Tapos, hovering over the arc. Then, clicking the center pag lumabas siya. Okay? So, by default, parang dot lang yung point natin. So, we'll have to enable we'll have to change the point settings, no? So, we can do P-type. May lalabas na setting. And we can choose the type of point that we want. So, I like using the crosshair, no? So, crosshair yung gagamitin ko. And let's just set the defaults. Okay naman yung defaults, no? So, yan. So, it should show up as a crosshair. Okay? So, you can do P-type to kung hindi gumana yung P-type, ano nga yung isang, I think it's PD mode. If hindi gumana yung P-type, kung pag nag-type kayo yung P-type tas walang lumabas na display box, you can also do PD mode. Tapos, choose number 2. PD mode 2 is the, yung crosshair. Okay? So, this is our given. Tapos, let's just create a random, mark dito. So, you can take a line or a circle. Lagay lang tayo ng isang, I'll just create a line. Tapos, kung saan nag-intersect, I'll just make a point dito. Okay? And, pwede ganyan. And, kailangan ko i-unlock muna, no? Delete ko lang tong ginawa kong line. So, again, ang purpose lang ng line is para lang magkaroon ako ng, way to mark. If you don't want to create a line, what you can do is temporarily turn nearest on, yung snapping na nearest, para pwede kayong mag-select along the arc, no? Okay? So, you should have something that looks like this. And let's just label ito. I'll just place a text dito. I'll call this C. Naglalag lang konti yung ko. I'll call this C. Tapos ito naman, I'll call this 1. Okay? Masyado ata maliit yung text ko, no? Or okay naman. I think okay lang siya. Tapos, same as before, lagay lang natin dito, tangent line, and let's call this tangent line passing through a point along the arc. Parang ganyan lang yung text natin. Okay? Tangent line passing through a point along the arc. Okay? Now, what we want to do is, di ba, na-discuss na natin to from before that when you have a tangent point, the behavior is that the tangent point or the tangent line will always be perpendicular to the radius, and it touches the given arc or given circle at exactly one point, which is the tangent point. In this case, the tangent point is point 1, and we can create a radius by connecting C and 1. Tama? So, ang gagawin natin is, I'll change my layer to the construction layer, and this is the siguro inconvenient thing about using the desktop version. Para mas mahirap mag-change ng layer, no? Kailangan nyo pa pumunta sa layer, tapos double-click the layer, like so, para ma-access yung layer. Meron sa taas? Sige, sa ribbon, kung meron pala sa ribbon, no, pwedeng i-change nyo yung layer. Pero, tama ba? Nasa home ata? Nandito. Pwede naman pala. Okay, thanks for the correction. So, pwedeng dito, change nyo lang yung layer quickly. Since naka-off yung ribbon ko, usually, I just go into the layer tab, tapos dino-double click ko kung anong layer gusto kong i-activate at the moment. Okay? Tapos, gawin natin is, let's just connect this first. Ito. So, I'm connecting point C to point 1. Tapos, what I want to do is, I want to create a perpendicular line from this radius point 1C. So, for now, ang gagawin natin is, extend lang natin tong line na to. And to extend the line, ito yung kulang sa web version, no? Parang, to extend this line, iba usually ang ginagawa natin is EX. Tapos, in-extend natin siya, tapos pupunta siya sa next na border, no? Which is, in our case, yung mga, yung borders ng worksheet yung hinahanap niya. So, kung gusto nyo kontrolado yung, yung amount na ile-lengthen nyo, you can actually select the line, grab one of its endpoints, hover nyo lang, tapos may lalabas na option. Either stretch or lengthen. What we want is the lengthen option. If you click the lengthen option, you can now lengthen the line freely, no? Okay? So, eto, malilengthen ko siya ng ganyan. So, I just want to lengthen it kasi gusto ko mag-create ng pseudo endpoints for me to create the perpendicular lines. Because again, yung tangent is always perpendicular to the radius. Tama? So again, ang ginawa ko lang is, I selected the line. Itong radius, sinelect ko siya. Hover over the endpoint. Pag hinover nyo over the endpoint, may lalabas na parang pop-out menu na lengthen or stretch. Ang gusto natin piliin is the lengthen na button. Tapos pag click nyo siya, pwede nyo siya i-drag. Tapos, you are able to lengthen it. Okay, lengthen natin. So, I'll lengthen it to ganito. Yan, that should be enough. Okay? So, okay. Stop muna ako dito. Check ko lang kung nasusunod ba ng lahat. So, we should have something that looks like this. We have an arc. This is arc C. Again, we can name arcs based on either its endpoints, endpoints ng arc mismo, or pwede rin by its center. No? So, since dito walang given na endpoints, pwede natin siyang tawagin as by its center. So, arc C ang tawag dito. So, this is arc C. Tapos, along arc C, there is a point, si point 1. Tapos, ang ginawa lang natin is connected the point C and point 1. Point C and point 1, since point 1 belongs to the circumference or is along the arc, ibig sabihin si line 1C is a radius. So, ang ginawa natin is we just extended it, and the purpose of extending it is because we want to create the pseudo endpoints para pwede tayo mag-perpendicular bisector. Okay? So again, for now, hindi ko munang i-allow yung paggamit ng object snapping for perpendicular lines. Kasi if you use perpendicular lines na object snapping, kapag, in case lang nakapag-explore na kayo, no, you probably notice na mas madali talaga mag-create ng perpendicular lines using object snapping. But again, dahil geometric construction pa tayo, bawal pa siyang gamitin for now, no? Let's construct the perpendicular lines through geometric means. Okay? So, we have this. Gagawa tayo ng pseudo endpoints natin. You can use a circle or we can either use a circle or an arc. Gawin ko lang is para lang hindi masyadong madumi tingnan, I'll just use an arc, no? So, I'll press A, then C for center, then click it here. Tapos, I'll just mark 2 endpoints, this one and this one. Okay? Now from here, I can now create a circle that is slightly larger than the midway point, like so. Copy this circle onto the other side or the other endpoint. Tapos, I can now connect and I'll be able to use the final answer layer na, no? So, I'll connect this point to this point to this point. Okay? So, pwede magpa-pass through actually sila sa, I don't know. So, I can just use this one. Like so. And if I want, I'll also extend this para mas obvious na tangent line siya, no? So, I'll just lengthen it again. Hover over, lengthen, then select it so I can move it freely. And now, this is my final answer. Okay? Pwede ko sigurong taasan pa yung opacity ng ano, no? Maybe I can do, kasi medyo distracting, or kahit hindi taasan yung opacity, I think I can reduce the size of the ano, no? Tama ba? 0.15 ba yung default? Maybe I'll try 0.9. Yan. Or masyado manipis. Let's try 0.13. Yan. Ni-reduce ko lang yung para lang mas malinis tingnan, no? So yung ano ko, construction lines, ni-reduce ko yung thickness niya to 0.30 using the layer tab para at least obvious na ano siya, construction lines lang siya. Okay? So, quite simple, no? Creating a tangent line, as long as the tangent point is given, you just need to connect the tangent point with the center to get a radius, and from that radius, if you get a perpendicular line passing through a point within the line, then you have to then you can create the tangent line. Tama, no? Okay? So, let's proceed with the next one. The next one is nakikita niyo. Wait lang, Next one is line tangent to a given arc passing through a point outside of the arc. Okay? So, let's create a random arc again. So, I'll just use A, C, and let me go back to the 0 layer. So, A, C, and I'll create an arc. And I'll mark the center of this arc. PO, hover over the arc. Mark the center. Tapos, ano yung label? C pa rin yung ano niya, no? Tapos, I'll mark a point outside. And based on sa ano, this is point C, yung center. Tapos this is point 2. Okay? So I have C and 2. And let's name this quadrant. Ang sabihin natin is tangent line passing through a point outside of the given arc. Okay? So, ito yung tawag natin sa kanya. Medyo malabo yung ano, no, kasi maliit lang kasi yung screen ng Steam Deck ko. So, pagka inaano siya, ina-expand na pipixelate. Okay? Now I press Control Enter, or actually walang way na wala yung check mark, no? Unlike si web version, may check mark para mag-exit out. The way you exit out of a text command is Control Enter. Tapos mag-finalize na siya ng text. Okay? So again, tangent line passing through a point outside of the given arc. Okay? So, ang gagawin natin dito is create tayo ng, the first thing we'll do is that we'll go back to what we, so hindi siya makikita sa recording, no? Sige, ano na lang, kasi isusulat ko siya sa board. So, if you remember, parang sabi natin, if we have a semicircle na ganyan, tapos, gumawa tayo ng any point here along this semicircle. If we connected the two end points of the diameter, we always create a perpendicular line. Tama, no? Ito yung na-observe natin. And this is how we created the right triangles, no? Now, one thing we'll notice is that, sabi natin kanina, when we did the first na window, was that the radius, let's call it R, is always perpendicular to the tangent line. Let's call this line as tangent T. You have an arc or a circle here. They are always perpendicular. Tama, no? So now, we also know that this tangent line, based on the situation that is given to us, is that it passes through point 2. Ito si point 2. Tama? So now, if I am given the center here, and I connected the center and the point 2, I have the same situation here. Tama, no? Same situation siya. It's a right triangle produced by a semicircle. So which means that pwede kong i-manipulate such that if I made the correct arrangement, kaya-kaya ko mahanap yung point of tangency, and if I can find the point of tangency, I am now able to connect a point 2 with the point of tangency and extend it to create a tangent line. So in this scenario, sino si radius? The small leg, no? Ito. This is the radius. Tangent line will be this one. Tapos itong parang diameter would be the connection between C and 2. Tama, no? Ito si C, ito si 2. Tama? Make sense? So, if we use the same concept, pwede natin actually gawin is, and let me change my layer. Ang gagawin natin is, we first connect C and 2, like so. Connect natin si C and 2. Tapos, ang gagawin natin is we create a semicircle or a circle that has C2 or 2C as its diameter. So, how do we do that? Hanapin muna yung midpoint. Tama? If we find the midpoint, so let's find the midpoint. So, let's just draw a circle muna. Using yung technique for perpendicular bisector, no? Draw a circle. And we can probably trim para hindi masyadong hindi siya mag-interfere doon sa kabilang area or kabilang window. Ayan, pwede ko i-trim yan. Now, I can connect this and this. That will be my midway point. This midway point right here. If I created a circle from here to here, it will now intersect my arc. It can have two solutions, no? Pwede siya mag-intersect. Ito, kulang lang yung ginawa ko. In this particular case, dahil hindi siya nag-intersect dito sa end na to, I have only one solution, which is this one. This is now the tangent point. Let me label, no? Para lang mas matandaan nyo. Let's say this is the tangent point. This one. Tapos, if this was extended, pwede actually dalawa yung tangent points na ma-produce natin. Kasi, if we imagine it, this is our arc, and it passes through a point outside of the arc. Meron talaga two solutions na, no? It can be tangent at this point, or it can be tangent at this point. Makes sense, no? So, in our case, dapat dalawa yung solution, pero in this particular scenario, yung nagawa ko, isa lang yung solution ko, which is just this one. Tama? Yung sa inyo ba? Based on how you created it, may dalawa kayong solution? Or tulad ba nung akin na isa lang? Isa lang? Okay lang din naman kung isa yung solution na gawa nyo. So again, it depends on the problem, no? Kung paano siya naka-layout. Pero sa akin, isa lang yung solution. If this were extended, kayang dalawang solution. Pero now, what I can do is change to my final answer layer. I'll connect point 2 with the tangent point, like so. And pwede ko yung i-extend to just to show na it's a tangent point. Like so. So that's my tangent point. Ano yun? Well, depende kung paano naka-state yung problem na. Usually may restrictions naman para alam nyo kung saan nyo ididikit talaga. Pero kung walang sinabi, then you have to show the two solutions. So, kailangan nyo siya i-drawing. Okay? So that's the geometric way of solving it, no? If you use descriptive geometry. Pero suppose we want to copy the scenario, no? Copy lang natin siya. Kaya ba natin mag-copy to? Copy from this base po. Tapos lipat lang natin siya. I-unlock ko muna yung layer, no? Para makakopy ko siya. So, let me just copy everything. Ito. Copy. I'll select this base point para same yung scenario. Ganyan siya. So, I'm just copying the exact scenario, no? Tapos, ang gagawin ko is I'll delete my construction lines. And there is actually a shortcut object snapping na pwede natin gawin such that in one click, masasolve na natin kung nasaan yung tangent point. So, the way we do that is, again, you must have the tangent point active. Ito, tangent point active. And probably na-notice nyo to kanina no, nung nag-snap kayo from point 2 to this tangent point. May bilog na lumabas because it intersected with the object snapping of the tangent point. So now, if I created, diretso ko nang i-create yung tangent point. If I press this one, 2, from point 2, gagawin ko is, kaya-create ako, hover over ako dito, may lalabas na parang bilog na tracking point. That tracking point is the tangent point. Okay? So, AutoCAD has the ability to create tangent points based on a given point, no? So, if you have a point outside, connect nyo lang siya, hanapin nyo lang sa circle, tapos lilitaw na tong tangent point na to. Okay? Again, it only works if you have object snapping tangent point enabled. And if you compare it with your answer kanina, dito, it's the same answer lang naman, no? Using the tangent point function. Okay? So, you can find the same solution. Tapos, if you try to find it dito, walang lilitaw na tangent point kasi, kumbaga, bitin kasi yung arc natin to produce the tangent point. Okay? So, either method is acceptable. Kung ako sa inyo, you use the tangent point method, no? Para konti na lang yung construction lines nyo. Pero I'm just showing this method just to show you na you can also do it using geometric, using circles only. Okay? So, pwedeng ganito na method. Or, if ayaw nyo na, ganito na lang. Diretso na sa tangent point. Okay? Internally tangent na. Okay? Now, let's try to do internally tangent. Let me just unlock my layer, no? For this next one, kailangan ko kasi ng malaking space. So, what I'll do is, I'll trim the middle portion, ito, para malaki yung natin. So, just trim it. Trim nyo lang to. Tapos, lock ko lang ulit. Tapos, lagay natin is internally tangent. Internally tangent lines. Okay? Parang ganyan. So again, binura ko lang yung vertical line, no, using the trim command para mas malaki yung space natin. Kasi we'll need the space, no. Tapos, ang gawin natin is, let's just create 2 circles. One circle. Oh. Just transmit it. Okay. So the first circle is, let's make it a small circle. Tapos yung second circle will be a larger one. Probably mga dito. I'll make it slightly larger, no? Parang ganyan. Okay? And just to make it a little easier for us, let's identify the center points, which is this one and this one. Identify the center points. And let's call this small circle as circle A. And small circle, and the other circle as circle B. Okay? Okay? So, ang gagawin natin is, we'll try to imagine the 2 circles first, no? So, when we say it's internally tangent, ang ibig lang sabihin nun is that the 2 tangent lines will intersect one another. So, an internally tangent line will look something like this. Parang ganyan. This is an internally tangent line where it passes through this circle or arc in exactly 1 point. Ito din, exactly 1 point. And you can have two solutions, no? Kasi pwede rin yung kabilang side naman dito. So this is scenario A, which is internally tangent lines. Okay? Now, the other case would be externally tangent lines wherein yung tangent mo is outside, no? So, hindi siya nagpa-pass through the, if you created the two solutions, hindi sila mag-intersect. Or if you imagine a line connecting the centers, yung externally tangent, hindi siya mag-intersect doon sa line connecting the centers, pero ito, nag-intersect sa line that's connecting the centers. So, this is an example of externally tangent lines. So, let's go with the first case muna, internally tangent lines. And what we'll do is, we'll try to simplify this, or ano bang proper term? We'll devolve this such that magiging scenario niya is point or circle tangent to a given point outside. Kasi ito yung pinaka-basic natin na technique. Point that is tangent to a given circle or arc. Parang ganyan. So we know how to do this, pero hindi natin pa alam kung paano natin gagawin ito. So the way we imagine it is, if I try to isolate, kunwari, i-isolate ko to. If I try to isolate this one, you'll notice na magiging ganito na siya. So it's a small circle. Tapos, naka-internally tangent siya. Or, sorry, naka-tangent siya to a given point outside. So, parang ganun na scenario, no? Tapos, pag in-isolate ko naman to, at yung kabilang side, parang ganun din. This one, naka-tangent lang siya. Parang ganun. So, really, the challenge here is, if we are able to find this point, kaya na natin siya gawin as if parang ganito lang siya. Tama? Kailangan lang mahanap itong point na to. And for this scenario, let's just call this point as point X. Ito yung hinahanap natin na point. If we can find point X, then we can treat it as if it's just a circle and a point. And we're just trying to find the tangent between a circle and a point. Okay? Now, what is the strategy of finding this point X? So, we imagine, let's say, for example, if they are perfectly equal in size, by ratio and proportion, you're expecting na si point X will be exactly at the middle, no? That will make sense? Exactly at the middle. Now, if you make this circle larger, will point X move to the left or right? Tingin nyo. To the left, no? Parang it logically should move to the left by a proportionate amount. And that proportionate amount is equivalent to the difference in the radii of the two circles. So we can actually, if you imagine imagine natin na meron tayong triangle dito. And let's connect it with the right triangle dito. Kaya natin mahanap to because these are similar triangles. Yung ratio nito, let's call this as radius A. Tapos, I'll just call this as base A. Tapos ito naman si radius B. And ito si base B. Parang ganyan. Okay? What you notice is, yung ratio niya, RA, ito B. Si RA over BA is equal to RB over BB. Okay? Yun yung ratio nila. If they are equal in radius, mag-equal din tong BA and BB. So, yung point na to will adjust accordingly based on the ratio of the two radii. Right? So, ang kailangan lang natin gawin is to find this right triangle. Kasi if we can find this right triangle and connect it with the opposite right triangle dito, mangyayari is, it will pass through point X. And once we have found point X, ang gagawin natin is, gawa na tayo ng tangent line. Okay? So, How do we do that? First is, connect lang muna natin si point A and point B. Okay? So, ito, I'm connecting point A and point B. Tapos, ang gagawin natin is, let's extend this line para makapag-create tayo ng pseudo endpoints natin. Kasi again, ang gusto kasi natin is we create a perpendicular line such that we create the right triangle. Kasi yung itong right triangle na to, gusto natin i-create to, gusto rin natin i-create ito. Tama? So, ang gagawin natin is, extend lang natin to. We can use the lengthen command or pwede rin naman i-extend lang natin. Parang ganon. Now, from here, pwede tayong mag-pseudo endpoints. Pwede mag-create tayo ng pseudo endpoints like so. Pwedeng arc, tapos C. Pwedeng ganyan. Tapos, perpendicular bisector lang. Pwede ganyan. Or, if you want, easier way is, you already have these 2 points, no? Pwedeng, yun na yung pseudo endpoints nyo. So, pwedeng gawin natin is, create tayo ng circle na agad dito. Copy natin yung circle na to sa kabila. Again, this is just creating perpendicular bisector, no? And now connecting this point. Tama? And you can extend this papunta dun sa radius. And let me change the circle size, no? Para mas obvious talaga siya. So, I'll just create this slightly larger lang. Probably mga ganyan. Let's copy. Put it onto the other side. Ito, para mas obvious siya, no? So, this is the perpendicular line. Perpendicular siya to the line connecting A and B. Tapos, extend lang natin para ma-create yung first na perpendicular line. First leg of the right triangle. Itong leg na to. Okay? And we do the same steps for the other side. Pwedeng ito. Create lang natin. Extend lang natin. Like so. Tapos, we can use the pero for this case, parang masyadong malaki yung circle B, no? If I created a circle that's like this, parang baka masyadong malaki naman yung kinakain niyang space just to create the perpendicular bisectors. So, for this case, it's better for me to parang create the pseudo endpoints, no? Or parang new endpoints. So, kunwari dito, create lang tayo ng new endpoints. Like so. Para doon tayo mag-create ng perpendicular line. Like so. And that's the second perpendicular line. And we can just extend this and extend this. Okay? Now, to make it a little cleaner, pwede namang i-trim lang natin to. Let's just trim this. Ganyan. Tapos, iwan lang natin itong oh, sorry. Iwan ko lang eto. Kasi obvious naman, no? If we leave this behind as geometric constructions, we know that it comes from yung technique na of finding the perpendicular bisector. Okay? Now that we have this, again, a lot of students make this mistake, no, na inisip nila when they create this right triangle na etong point na to is already the tangent point. Hindi pa to tangent point, no? This is just specifically to find point X. And point X will be used para mahanap natin yung tangent points. Okay? So, ito, you can connect the top one with the bottom point of the opposite circle, or pwede din naman yung bottom nito connect nyo with the top. Doesn't really matter, no? It should intersect at exactly the same point. So, mag-intersect siya dito sa point X na yun. So, yung proportional point. We could probably just put 1 para hindi ganun ka dumi yung solution natin. So, nandito siya. Now that we have this, and I'll just, for the sake of this problem, I'll just label this as point X. Pero again, you don't have to label this point, no? Pero I'll just label this as point X para lang mas maalala nyo. Tapos again, si point X is now can be treated as if siya, isolated sila na a point outside of the given arc. So parang case 1, parang dito na case scenario lang ulit. Ito. This is like doing this, no? Okay? So, you can do the technique again wherein i-bisect nyo to find the midpoint and create a circle or arc around it, and where it intersects, yun yung tangent point. Or pwedeng gamitin nyo na yung si AutoCAD, auto tangent point na tayo. And I'll do both, no? So kunwari dito sa left side, I'll do the scenario wherein geometric constructions ang gagamitin ko. So if I were to do geometric constructions, what I'll do is I'll find slightly larger, siguro ganyan. Copy this one onto the other side. This is the perpendicular bisector. So this point right here, I can create an arc from here, like so. Where it intersects, yan yung tangent point. Ito tangent point dito, and ito yung tangent point dito. So if I change my layer to the final answer layer and connect it, punta dito. Notice how papunta, oh wait, saan nag-connect? Parang may mali. Dito dapat siya eh. Wait lang ha. Mali bang ginawa ko? Ulitin ko lang ha. It should be the same. Let me do that again, no? Ito yung point X natin. Get the midpoint. So using a circle. Copy this circle. Punta dyan. Then we create the midpoint. Use the perpendicular bisector ito. And then we create an arc from okay, nag-random kasi ako ng arc. Dapat dito. From this one to the center. Okay, so pati circle siguro ang gagawin ko na. So where it intersects, that should be the tangent point. Okay, so if I created the line, and I'll change layer, no? Create the line from this point papunta dun sa tangent point, it should be the same point. Although parang may inaccuracy dito yung na-detect na tangent point, pero dito yung nahanap ko. It should be the same point. Kaya mali yung ginagawa ko. Wait lang ha. Let me do that one more time. Create lang ako ng line dito para gamitin ko yung midpoint. Tapos circle from the midpoint. Tapos ito kasi if perfect created. Ayan, exact na. Mali na ba ginawa ko kanina? So, it now meets, no? Okay, one more time. Ulitin ko lang ha. So, ang gagawin natin is we bisect this line. So, ito from point A to X, ibabisect natin. So, using a circle. Two circles. So, bisect lang natin. This circle, copy natin onto the other side. Yan. Ito yung center. Yan siya. And where it intersects, that should be the tangent point. Pero, if I do this, tama na. Okay naman. Okay? So again, you can do the long method using the, ito, again, I'm just bisecting point A to X. This is the intersection point. Ito. Yan siya. And you create a circle from that intersection point which produces etong tangent point na to. This one. So you have, let's label it para hindi tayo nalilito. So this is the tangent point. And let's mark it with a point no para mas obvious. And I'll copy this, paste ko lang din dito para kita na there is two tangent points, no? Or there are two tangent points, I mean. Yan. Now, if I connect those lines, and I'll use the final answer layer, from here to here, that should be the tangent point. And it also aligns with, ano no, yung kung nakikita nyo, nagtatrack siya, di ba? Yung tangent point, which means na nag-overlap siya. Yung nakuha natin geometrically is the same as what AutoCAD would have found if it uses its built-in OSNAP function, no? Okay? So, yun yung gagawin natin. Pero again, I will allow you if hindi nyo kailangan gawin yung ano no, yung technique na to, okay lang na gamitin natin yung built-in function ni AutoCAD. So, if I were to use the built-in function, I'll do it onto the other side, no? A built-in function would be something like, diretso lang, hanap na agad. Okay? So, let's do it on the other side, no? Ito, hover over the circle and i-identify niya kung nasaan si tangent point. Indicated by this circle na tracking point, no? And lilitaw din yung ano, yung parang anong tawag dito? Tooltip na nakasulat tangent siya. Okay? So you can do it like this. And lilitaw din siya dyan. So those are our externally tangent line. Okay? So anong prefer nyo? Yung long method or yung tangent point na lang, no? Pero wala kayong choice, pero wala kayong choice for a shortcut would be finding the point X. Yun, kailangan nyo talagang gawin. You need to find point X kasi need natin siya para ma-establish kung nasaan yung i-consider natin as if it were a point. Okay? If you find point X, then you can use yung automatic na OSNAP, which is tangent point. Okay? And I'll go back to the construction layer. I'll also mark this, no? By the way, in ES1, hindi enough na mukha siyang tangent point, especially if you're doing this manually. If you're doing this manually, usually nakaganyan yung itsura niya, no? Na parang naka-extend siya onte. Parang ganyan. Or minsan, ang ginagawa ng students is just exactly at the tangent point siya mag-end. Pero hindi pwede na hindi nakamark kung nasaan yung tangent point, no? The tangent points are also part of the final answer. So, kailangan i-mark nyo siya with a point. So, ito, I'm marking it with a point using the final answers layer. Kailangan nakaganyan siya. Okay lang na hindi naka-label, no? Hindi nyo kailangan i-label na yun yung tangent point, pero kailangan naka-mark siya with either a crosshair or an arc, no? In my case, crosshair lang yung ginamit ko. Okay? Malinaw ba or kailangan ulitin? Ulitin? Ulitin ba or okay naman? Nakuha ba lang lahat? Okay, so mukhang hindi na kailangan ulitin, no? Okay, so that's tangent points. Again, the most important part is finding point X. If you found point X, you can now treat it as if it's just a point outside of a given arc. Okay? Next. Externally tangent naman. And for this case, again, we need more space, no? So, i-delete lang natin tong ano. I-trim lang natin yung nasa middle para pwede tayong we can have more space to work with, no? So, ito naman, let's label it as externally tangent lines. Okay? I'll shift this back to layer 0. Right? So, gawa lang tayo ng same scenario. We have circle A and circle B. Pero, just for variety, no, i-change lang natin. Let's try si circle A naman ang mas malaki. So, let's try it. Circle A is mas malaki. Circle B is mas balit. Just for variety sake, no? EO. Tapos mark lang natin yung point, the center points para mas madali. Okay? And usually naman sa mga plates natin or given, especially if it's a tangent lines na plate, usually nakamark naman kung nasaan yung center points. Okay? So, externally tangent lines. And I'll show you dito sa board kung ano yung parang imagination natin. And again, parang same scenario, no? Gusto natin siya na i-decompose na magmumuka ulit siyang at a point magmumuka siyang arc and a point, tapos we want to find the tangent line that passes through the given point outside of the arc. Okay? So, yun yung goal natin. Okay? So, first off, let's try to imagine the two circles muna, no? Ito siya. Tapos, let's imagine a externally tangent line. So, if you think about it in real life, para siyang may dalawa kang wheels, tapos may nakapatong na plank, no? Tapos, it's perfectly balanced on the plank, and it touches the plank at exactly one point. Parang ganun. If it's a perfect circle and a perfect straight na plank, no? So, parang ganyan yung itsura niya. Now, what would happen if, kunwari, binawasan ko yung, if I reduce the radius of the big circle by some amount x, x yung i-reduce ko, or let's say delta x, tapos i-reduce ko rin to by some amount delta x din. Ganyan. Ano tingin nyo mangyayari doon sa parang plank or sa line na ano? It will move closer, no? Pero yung distance niya na yung galaw niya, kumbaga, is always delta x, no? It's consistently delta x. Tama? Dito, delta x siya nag-move. Dito, delta x siya. So, ibig sabihin, anywhere along this line, delta x siya. So, we can say na ito is parallel to this one. Tama? Does that make sense? Make sense siya, no? Ito, nag-move siya perpendicularly such that puro parallel yung lines na mapuproduce mo. Okay? So, ito, parallel to this one. Right? Make sense, ha? Now, let's do that again, no? Kunwari, another delta x ulit tayo. Move natin siya. Another delta x. So, ito parang 2 delta x na yung ginalaw niya. Ito din, 2 delta x din yung gagalaw niya. Mangyayari is, we also move it. And, pangit lang yung drawing ko, no? Pero, mangyayari is, you again move the plank or the line in a parallel manner, no? Ito, this one is parallel to this one, is parallel to this one. So, na-imagine nyo na kung saan tayo papunta dito? So, gagawin natin is, parang i-implode natin yung smaller circle. Implode natin siya such that, ang mangyayari is, single point na lang siya. So, mag-i-implode siya into a singular point. So, ang mangyayari is, this looks familiar, no? This is now just a given arc and a given point. So, parang the first scenario na ulit. Yung parang given tayo ng point outside and a given arc. So now, we can use the same techniques na. So, ang pwede natin gawin is we implode the smaller circle such that magiging isang singular point na siya. We find the tangent lines. Tapos, ang gagawin natin is move back out lang tayo. Tapos, mahanap na natin yung original na externally tangent lines. So, yun yung strategy natin. Okay? So, how much do we implode it? Or how much do we reduce the size of the circles? By the radius of yung other circle. So, if this is circle A and this is circle B, we reduce circle A. So, let's say na yung new circle na i-produce natin is circle C, kunwari. So, RC should have the radius RA minus RB. Tama? And now, we treat RC, we treat circle C plus the point, a point, as if point lang si B, circle C and point B lang yung treatment natin sa kanila. Tapos, gawa tayo ng tangent lines between them. Then, we just move it back out. So, let's try to do it how we can operationalize it, no? So, first step, and you'll notice this a lot, no? When you're doing tangent lines, almost always the first step is to connect the two centers. Parang, kung wala lang kayong maalala, kunwari, or if this was a regular exam, no? Or regular SEM, tapos may exams tayo, kung wala kayong maalalang step, just connect the two centers. May points na agad yun. Parang ganun. That's what I always say, no? During the regular SEM. Pagka kinonnect nyo to, points na agad yun. Okay? So, if you forget a step, just connect them. Feel ko mafi-figure out nyo rin siya eventually. Okay? Tapos, ang gagawin natin is, we find a new circle C that has been reduced from circle A. And, by the way, label ko lang para mas ma-obvious, no? So, this is circle A. And this is circle B. So, ang gagawin natin is, para mag-create tayo ng circle C such that circle C has a radius, or para hindi nakakalito, no? I'll just say circle A prime na to. Circle A prime. Kasi they share the same centers kasi. So, mas, mas nagme-make sense if circle A prime. So, create tayo ng circle A prime such that A prime has the radius RA minus RB. So, how do we do that here? It's as simple as just copying yung distance ni... Oops. Construction like that. It's as simple as creating copying the distance of circle B. Lipat lang natin siya dito. So now, etong distance na to should be now RA minus RB. Tama? So again, ang ginawa natin is kinuha lang natin yung distance ni circle B. Ito, kinopya lang natin. So, if this was done manually, parang inopen up nyo lang yung compass nyo such that measure nyo yung radius ni B. Tapos, nilipat nyo yung distance na yon. Lagay nyo yung pin ng compass nyo dito sa edge ng circumference ni circle A. Kung saan siya nag-intersect dito, that is now the new radius of circle A prime. Tama? Make sense? Hopefully, nag-make sense yun, no? Parang ganyan. So, this is now circle A prime. And circle A prime has the radius RA minus RB. And I'll write it down, no? Para mas maano nyo. RA prime is equal to RA minus RB. Ito yung radius nito, and I'll just put it off to the side, no? Somewhere dito siguro. Para lang may reminder tayo kung ano yung radius ng circle na to. Okay? So, I can delete this circle, no, para hindi masyadong maraming circles ano natin. I'll just delete that. We know that this new circle right here is ano, no? So now, ang gagawin na lang natin is we treat circle B as if it were a point. So, yung center niya is actually the imploded point na. So, ang gagawin na lang natin is to just connect this one with this one. Tama? So, nakatangent. So, eto, shortcut na yung gagamitin ko. Pero if you want the long method, ang gagawin nyo is to find the perpendicular bisector. Parang ganyan. Copy. I'll just do it quickly, no? Para lang mas ma-imagine nyo. I'll do it quickly. Sorry. Gawa kayo ng perpendicular bisector like so by creating two circles. Copy the first circle on the left. Naglalag yung PC ko. Copy the first circle on the left. Lipat natin siya to the right. Like so. And from here, let me just check. Nag-iba yung tracking ko. Nagtatrack siya sa grids. Paano nga disable to? Wait lang, ha. Biglang nag-snap to grid. Disable. Snap settings. How do I disable grid snapping? Grid snap. F9 ba yun? Polar snap na lang. Paano tayo disable? Ba't siya nang-enable bigla? Wait lang, na-accidentally enable ko yung parang okay na yata. Okay. So, ang gagawin natin is nag-snap pa rin to grid. Let me just save this first. Tapos restart ko na lang. I'll say, ano pa to? Tangent lines. Ay, ito pala. Okay. Okay na pala na disable ko na. So, ito, pwede natin i-connect lang siya, no? So, to find the center and from here, circle again. And where it intersects, yan yung tangent point. Which also matches with the tangent point produced by AutoCAD. Okay? Pero again, pwedeng hindi na natin gawin. Pwedeng diretso na tayo from here para mas malinis yung work natin, and let's take advantage of AutoCAD snapping feature. Gawin natin is from this point B, diretso natin i-snap dito sa to the tangent point. Okay? Same results lang naman makukuha natin, and it's a lot faster, no? Okay? So this one is sorry. Mali. Doon sa we should snap it towards the yung A prime. Snap nyo towards A prime. Okay? Tapos from here, how do you move it upwards or move it outwards? Ang gagawin natin is i-connect natin tong line na to papunta dito sa tangent point. Tapos we extend it para mag-meet siya dito. And we do the same dito. Extend it. Like so. And kung saan siya nag-meet dito, wait lang tangent point. Tama. This is okay. Parang may something wrong Wait lang Let me just double check. Tama ba yung ginawa ko? RB. Same lang naman. Okay. Tama naman, no? Okay. So, I'm just looking at it. Dapat mag-make sense na dito siya tangent. Kaso mukhang hindi sila. Wala, let me just double check using a parallel line. Tama nga. Okay, tama naman. Mukha lang, may konting optical illusion lang, no? Kasi I'm looking at it, mukhang hindi parallel eh. Hindi ko lang kung napapansin nyo. Kunwari ito, this is now the tangent point to the larger circle. Now, since we have a tangent point here, kapag nilagay natin siya to the smaller circle, ma-identify din niya yung next tangent point. Kaya ako nababother kasi if I'm looking at the two lines, ito and ito, mukhang hindi parallel, no? Mukha ba parallel? Parang sa perspective ko, mukha kasing hindi parallel. Kaya ako nagtaka, akala ko mali yung ginawa ko. Parallel naman? Okay, sige, kung mukhang parallel sa inyo. Sa akin, feeling ko may konting optical illusion lang. Pero, that's how you find it, no? So, you do it onto the other side as well. Again, ang ginawa lang natin is connect the center to the initial tangent point na na-find natin. Extend it up to the larger original circle A. Then, now that you have this, and probably we can do it in the final answers layer, I can now connect this one with this tangent point right here. So, ito, pwede ko na i-connect with this tangent point. Obviously, without the, ito, we can do this in this iteration of ES1, pero back then, hindi kasi pwede gawin yon kasi wala namang, if you're doing it on pen and paper, wala kasing automatic tangent point. So, I'll teach you how to do it if, kunwari, wala tayong tangent points from AutoCAD. So, the way you do it is, you use the parallelogram method. So, ang gagawin nyo is, you already have this tangent point. Ang kulang nyo na lang is the tangent point here. And you can find that by creating a line that's parallel to, creating a line from point B that's parallel to this line right here. Kung mahanap mo yung parallel line na yon, then you can find it here kung saan sila nag-meet. Yun yung tangent point. The easiest way to do it is through, hindi nga parallelogram method. The easiest way to do it is through the the rectangle method. Kasi if you imagine, and let me just isolate, no? Ito kasi yung tangent line natin. So this is from yung tangent line, tangent point at circle A prime, di ba? Ito siya. Tapos ito naman si point B. Tapos ang ginawa natin is, ito yung point A. In-extend natin siya pa ganyan. Hanggang dumating siya dun sa tangent point at circle A, or the original given circle. Tama? Ito siya. And we know that this is a rectangle. Tama? Sorry, right angle to. Because the tangent line is, always perpendicular to the radius. So this is perpendicular. Tama? So which means that this is also perpendicular, which means that this is also perpendicular, yung line dito. Okay? So which means, kung perpendicular to dalawang to, yung na dito sa side na to, perpendicular din. So this is actually a rectangle. Now one of the properties of the rectangle is that equal yung diagonals. If you have this as D1, this is also equal to D2. Okay? So, the way you find it is, if this was done manually, no? Kukunin nyo yung distance nito and ito. This is diagonal 1. Kukopyahin nyo siya, lipat nyo siya dito, tapos mark kayo ng point dito. Kung saan sila nag-meet, yan yung tangent point at circle B. So, that's how you do it using compass, no? Using your pencil and paper. So, in AutoCAD, if we were to try to imagine that, ang gagawin natin is, kukunin natin tong distance na to from the tangent point at circle A, papunta sa B. Copy natin yung distance na yun, lipat natin dito. Kung saan siya nag-meet dyan, yan yung tangent point at circle B. Tama? If I connect this one, that's actually a rectangle. And now, if I connect them, connect natin, it perfectly matches the tangent point. Okay? So that's how we used to do it kung wala kang automatic object snapping. Okay? Pero again, since we have object snapping, let's just use it. No. Okay? Gawin natin is Lipat ko lang sa final answer. So, this is now the answer here. And ito, tangent, automatic na hanap siya. We can find it there. Okay, so a lot easier to... This is the lesson na during the regular SEM, sobrang nahihirapan yung mga students, no? Kasi para madaming steps, tapos hindi siya readily imaginable, no? Tapos minsan nagkakamali doon sa mga intermediate steps. Tama yung first few steps, tapos sa intermediate step mali. Ang mangyayari is mali na yung nakukuhang externally tangent lines. Okay? So, what's the most important part here? Tingin nyo. Kung dito, ang pinaka-crucial is finding point X. Dito naman, ang pinaka-crucial is actually finding the radius of circle A prime. Yung parang smaller circle na to. Tama? Just remember that circle A prime has a radius equal to circle A minus circle B. Radius of circle A minus radius of circle B. If you find this one, sobrang dali na. Kasi ang mangyayari lang is, you just create a tangent, then move the tangent upwards to find this externally tangent line. Okay? Anong oras na? It's 3:05. 3:05, let's take a short break. 5 minutes ulit. Tapos balik tayo 3:10. Sorry. Okay, so the next one we'll do is externally tangent arc. That is and we are given the radius of that externally tangent arc. So if it's an externally tangent arc, it just means that the direction of their curvature is opposite to one another. So what that might look like is ito. This is your given arc. An externally tangent arc would look like this. Ayan. Opposite yung curvature nila. Pag internally tangent arc, so this is internally tangent arc would be the opposite naman. Ibig sabihin, same yung direction na curvature nila. Okay? Parang ganyan. So, for externally tangent arcs, ang goal natin is kasi nasa opposite side yung yung direction of the curvature, which means that its center should be outside. So we are actually adding the radius beyond the given original radius of the first arc. Okay? So let's just put the title here. Ang sabihin natin is externally tangent arc given a radius r. Given a radius r. Okay? So, let's just make a arbitrary, gawa lang tayo ng arbitrary radius. Naku, off pa yung polar. Lang, snow, snapping rabbits, North ko ata, polar. It's this one. Ayan. So, sana ito malaki to. Wait. I'll do a smaller one. Mga ganyan lang siguro. Okay? So, this is my radius r. Tapos, we are given an arc. Lagay lang natin cover ganyan. Tapos, let's find the center of this arc using point. Tapos, hover over the arc. Tapos, click nyo lang to. By the way, we can disable midpoint, no? Kasi minsan nag-interfere siya. Just disable midpoint. Okay? So, again, yung externally tangent arc, we noted that yung radius niya or yung center niya is outside of the given arc. Okay? So, meaning, we can just, and in this particular case, given yung point of tangency, no? Tama? We are given the point of tangency. So, we can place a point. Lagay lang din ako ng point to. So, place a point. You can place a point. Tapos, enable lang natin yung neighbor. Sorry, not neighbor. Nearest. Para pwede tayong maglagay ng point along the arc, no? Nearest. Temporarily lang. Enable nyo siya. Tapos, disable nyo lang din kasi, again, masyadong yung neighbor kasi yung nearest kasi minsan nag-interfere with the other commands, like for example sa parallel, perpendicular, kahit sa tangent, no. Okay, so I leave it off, no. Okay, so I have this one and let's just place some labels. This is point, ano yun? Circle A, point 1. So, okay, so this is circle A and this is point 1. Okay. By the way, ang crosshairs kasi natin is naka-absolute siya, naka-relative siya, no? So, you'll notice na minsan pagka kinrate nyo yung point na naka-zoom in, tapos nag-zoom out kayo, masyado siya maliit. So, if that's the case, you can just type in RE for regenerate. So, mangyayari lang is, pag nag-regenerate siya, re-calibrate niya. Kunwari ito, masyado malaki. Pag nag-zoom in ako, pwede ko i-regenerate, tas lilit ulit yung points ko. So, if it's, kung nakaka-bother siya, you can do that. Another way of doing it is, if you type p-type, pwedeng instead of the point size being a percentage of the screen, pwede nyo gawin siyang absolute na units, no? So, for example, if I set it to absolute units, kunwari ganyan, no matter how much I regenerate, yun na yung absolute units na. So, minsan mas okay na naka-absolute siya, no? And in fact, dito sa case ko, I'll make it absolute. Gawin kong, based on the scaling, I think 3 will work nicely, no? Yan. Para hindi na ako mamobleba sa, Okay? So, that's an option if you want, no? Para hindi na always changing yung size ng mga points nyo. What you can do, again, is p-type. Tapos, by default, it's set to size relative to screen. Gawin nyo siyang set size in absolute units. Okay? Tapos, for this particular case, I think 3.3 units is the best, no? Para maganda yung proportion niya relative to the workable na A4 worksheet natin. Okay? Alright. So, ang gagawin natin is, we just create a line, connect the, we create a radius that passes through the given tangent point, like so. Tapos, ang gagawin natin is, i-extend natin tong radius na to. Or, extend natin tong line na to, no? Si line A1, extend natin siya. And we know that the center of the externally tangent arc lies within this radius. Lies within this line. Now, we are given the radius, so it's as simple as just copying the distance of the radius, no? Tama? So, if we copy this one, place it here, kung saan siya tumama dito, that is now the center of the circle or arc. So, now, we can create our arc or our circle. And let's use final answer. Pwede ang gawin natin is to just create the circle or arc. And that's the final answer. And we should match, no? Etong center is part of the final answer. So, ito dapat should be in the final answers layer, no? Final answer. So, again, the centers of your arcs and circles is also considered as a final answer. Okay? So, dapat if it's pen and paper or pencil and paper, it should be naka-HB siya, kumbaga. In our case, dapat naka-dark white siya or naka-white. Okay. If you don't want to create construction lines first, no? Kasi, ang ginawa ko kasi kanina, sige, i-replay ko lang yung ginawa ko, no? What I did was copied the, kasi I'm using an analogous case na parang, if it's done in using a technical compass and pencil, usually what we do is measure the compass as depicted by the circle or measure the distance as depicted by the circle. Tapos, lalagay ko dyan, mark ko yung point, then create the circle afterwards. Parang ganyan. And this is the final answer. Pero, if we do away with making it analogous with the pencil and paper method, what you can actually do is, pwedeng, naka-final answer na siya. As ang gagawin nyo is create the circle. Kasi we know that the final answer should have this radius, no? Tapos, ang gagawin nyo is, mas better if I created it this way. Tapos, ang gagawin nyo is, you just move this using the base point as this one. Para, hindi, naka-different angle pala sila. So, you'll have to rotate it eventually. Pangit pala. Kasi, ang gagawin ko dito is, i-rotate ko pa. So, pangit na method yun, no? Parang best case method na yung ginawa ko. Which is, construction layer muna. Copy the radius. Place it here. Mark it with a point. Tapos, pwedeng ito, i-move nyo na lang dito. And, change this to final answers. Properties, final answer. Okay? So, yun. You should have something that looks like this. Okay, so that's externally tangent lines. Externally tangent arcs or circles given a radius r. How about if we have an internally tangent circle? And for this case, let me draw a... Gawa tayo ng random arc, no? So, I'll do an arc. Probably mga ganyan. Let's do zeroth layer tayo. Let's do arc. Enter. And let's just do it this way, no? Parang ganyan. And let's define two radii. O pala, kahit isa na lang. Let's just do one radius, no? One radius r. I think it's important to show the two radii, no? So, try to create a large radius, parang ganito, and create a smaller one, like this. Tapos, gawa tayo ng 2 points, and let's just call this as R1. Kasi ito naman, R2 would be the larger one. And temporarily turn on nearest para pwede tayo mag-mark ng points, no? So, let's call this as point 1. Ito naman point 2. And we'll say na si point 1 is the tangent point for the internally tangent arc that has a radius of R1. Tapos si point 2 naman is the tangent point for the internally tangent radius or internally tangent arc of radius R2. Pero masyado atang dikit yung ano ko. Let me just adjust it konti, no? Unlock ko lang to. I think masyadong dikit siya. Galawin ko lang, move ko lang to the side, parang ganyan. And let me lock it again. And let's place a descriptor, no? Sabihin natin, ano to? Internally tangent arc given radii. Or given a radius. Tapos may 2 examples tayo. And I'll show you, or I'll explain in a bit, no, kung bakit dalawang radius yung specifically pinili ko. Kasi based on the 2 radius, radii na, or based on the length of the radius, para magbabago yung shape, no? It's either the arc is outside of the given original arc, or the arc is parang nasa loob siya, inside of the circle. Okay? So, it depends on how large the radius is. If the radius of the internally tangent arc is larger than the given one, then it will naturally fall outside. If it's smaller naman, then it will naturally fall inside. Okay? And by the way, let's mark the center pala of this. Also mark the center of this circle. And tama ba estimate ko? Probably tama naman estimate ko. So make R1, baka mali pala estimate ko, no? I'll just double check. Double checking, is R1 smaller? Smaller naman siya. I could probably have made it a little smaller pa, no? Pero sige, I'll make it a little smaller para mas obvious talaga. Okay. Okay. So again, ang condition lang is R1 is smaller than the radius of the given circle, tas R2 is larger than the radius of the given circle or arc. Okay? Para lang mas makita nyo. Again, we're just doing arbitrary distances dito, no, para lang ma-mimic natin tong nasa natin. Itong reference module natin. Okay? So ito yung scenario natin. You should have 1 arc, 3 points, and 2 lines. Okay? So let's start. If dito sa externally tangent, we are adding or we are moving away from the center of the given arc. Dito naman sa internally tangent arcs, we are moving towards the center. Okay? So if I draw a line, and I'm in the correct layer, no? I draw a line. Kuwari, let's do R1 first. To, I'm moving inside. Parang ganyan. So ang gagawin natin is, I'll measure this radius. Tapos, may measure ako inside. Okay? And, itong R1 na to, again, the condition is, si R1 is the internally tangent arc, or is the radius of the internally tangent arc, tangent at point 1. Okay? So, itong point na to is actually the center of that internally tangent arc. To? So, now, I can move this, papunta dyan, and that is my arc, the first internally tangent arc. And we can change this to a final answer. I'll just use the layer properties, no, to shift the formatting. Okay? So, yan yung first one, internally tangent arc. And let's label them. Sabihin natin is, ano ba maganda dito? Internally tangent arc. Let's just call this I1, no? Oh, sorry. I'll go to the final answer. I'll just call the first one as I1. Again, yung arcs natin and circles can be named by or can be described by its center, no? So I can say that this circle is I1. Okay? Right? Now let's find I2, where I2 is the other internally tangent arc or circle given radius R2. So ang gagawin natin is, again, connect lang natin yung point of tangency, which is in this case si point 2. Connect natin siya with the center of the given arc or circle. Tapos, we noted that R2 is larger, no, than the radius of the given or the original arc. Therefore, kailangan natin extend itong connection na to. Okay, so we extend it. So we can lengthen it or we can use the extend command. Extend lang natin siya. Pwede pa natin i-lengthen to. And now, same as before, same steps, we just move inwards, no? So we are moving inwards. Kung saan siya tumama dyan, that is the center of the internally tangent arc. Okay? So now, we can move this pabalik. And we can probably do an arc lang, no? Para hindi naman masyado malaki. So we can do arc A, C. This is the center. And let's create this internally tangent arc. And we can move this. Lengthen din natin siya to have something that looks like this. And lipat lang natin siya sa ano, no? Correct layer. Final answer. So you have something that looks like this. Or pwede man circle yung ginawa nyo, tapos trim na lang, no? That could also work. Okay? So, gawin ko na lang yung para hindi kayo malito, no? So, I'll just do a circle. And let me just trim this. Masyado kasi malaki. Ano? Yan. That's my I2. This one, again, change it to final answer. And let's label this. Sabihin natin na I2, no? Where I2 is the internally tangent arc whose radius is R2 and tangent at point 2. Okay? So, very simple lang, no? Very simple lang si internally tangent arc. Internally tangent arc is just moving inwards. Tapos, externally tangent arc naman is moving outwards. Yun lang yung difference ng dalawa, no? If yours though doesn't look exactly like mine, it's probably because of the yung mga radii na napili. Okay lang yun. Kasi in the plates naman, ibibigay naman yung exact na given. Kasi ngayon nag-ano lang tayo, arbitrary. Okay lang, hindi ganun ka same yung yours. I'll just be sending the recording doon para pwede nyo balikan. I-panoorin nyo na lang yung 2 times speed nyo. Mamaya, we'll do some examples mamaya no, that will really challenge your brain. Sobrang medyo mahirap yung examples natin. No? Kailangan talaga ng a bit of imagination para ma-solve siya. Siguro sa plates, ang gagawin ko is yung given, iibahin ko yung kulay, no? Para obvious na given siya. Para hindi nyo accidentally ma-delete. Tapos, kayo na bala kung ano yung gusto nyo kulay para sa final answer. Ang final answer should be white. Yung construction lines, you can choose whatever you want. Okay? Right. So, next. Ito na yung mga, hindi pa pala. Smooth curves muna tayo. Smooth curve is when you have a when you have a set of lines, you can actually draw a curve along those set of lines, no? This is what we call as a smooth curve. And we can draw a path that follows the smooth line to create these curves. And sometimes yung mga drawing tools natin, for example, if you've ever tried tools like Illustrator, they use a similar concept, no? Kung paano nila mapapalabas yung mga curved na paths na yon. So, it's through this smooth curves concept. Okay? So, the first one we'll do is let's just draw and let's label this, no? Balik muna ako sa 0th layer ko. Let's just say, let's label this as smooth curves. Okay? Smooth curves. Tapos, gawa lang tayo ng zigzag pattern. Parang ganyan. And, dito sa example, nakaganyan lang siya, no? Pero let's add one more na ganyan. So, zigzag pattern. So what we want to do is draw a smooth curve following this pattern, and we need to identify a starting point, no? So let's temporarily enable nearest, tapos identify tayo na starting point. Probably kayo na bala pumili, I'll pick it here, no? That's our starting point. Usually pagka nag-smooth curve tayo, may identified na starting point. So this is the starting point, and from this starting point, gagawa tayo ng smooth curve around the zigzag lines. Or zigzagging lines. Okay? Okay, set up nyo muna. Yan yung itsura. Let's just label this starting point as S, no? Okay? S for start. Hindi naman. Lang. Parang mag-create lang kayo ng random zigzag line. It will still work, no? Gusto ko lang ipakita na ganito kasi I'll show you pagka nag-opposite direction yung curve. At the same time, gusto ko din ipakita what happens if it's in the same direction. So ito, opposite to, di ba? You start here, tapos mag-opposite curve siya dito, then dito, same direction. So para lang mas ma-imagine nyo. So ang goal natin is to produce something that looks like this. Okay, this is your zigzag. Gusto natin mag-produce na curve that follows this direction. Parang ganyan yung produce natin. Tapos if we add one more, kung natin ganyan, pwede siya mag-continue pa na. So the smooth curve follows whatever lines we produce. Okay? So ito yung goal natin, mag-produce ng smooth curve from the given straight edges. Okay? So, the first step is to copy this starting point, because the starting point, or sorry, the smooth curve touches the line exactly at one point. So, kumbaga tangent pa rin siya. And this point S, our starting point, is actually the first tangent point. Okay? So, the first thing that we need to do is copy the tangent point. Lipat natin doon sa kasunod niya na line. So, this is the first step. Copy this one. Where it touches the second line, that is the second tangent point. So, kumbaga dito, this is the first tangent point. Pagka nag-smooth curve kayo dito, nandito siya sa second tangent point. Okay? So, that's the first one. Tapos, ang gagawin natin is, because this is a smooth curve, if you remember the lesson on parang inscribing a circle inside a triangle, para naalala nyo na yung imagination natin doon is, there is a circle that is stuck inside a wedge. So, parang ganun siya, no? The smooth curve is exactly at the middle of the wedge, no? So, which means that yung center ng arc that will produce the first smooth curve is along the angular bisector. Okay? Nag-make sense ba yun? Baga yung center should be somewhere along this angular bisector right here. So, how do we do angular bisector? We already have this point. This could be the sort of initial arc na gagawin natin. So, we can just create two circles, no? So, one circle here. Somewhere, siguro ganyan. And copy this one. Create another. Masyado pala malaki yung circle ginawa ko. Pero okay lang naman. But I think I could make it smaller, no? Pwede siguro ganyan. Ay, sorry. Hindi ko kaya ganyan. Let's copy this one. Copy it to the other tangent point. Like so. So now, if I connect this point and the vertex, that is the angular bisector. Okay? Parang ganyan. That is now the angular bisector, and I know that the center passes through that angular bisector. Okay? Now, this is the sort of hard part, is that alam natin na the center lies along this angular bisector. Yun yung first clue natin. And we also know that this is a tangent point. This is a tangent point. Which means that this is a tangent line. All of the lines are tangent lines. So, ano yung relationship ng tangent lines to the center? To the radius? Right angle siya, no? Or perpendicular siya. Which means that if we create a perpendicular line from this tangent point, so what a perpendicular line? Then, we should find the center of the arc of the first smooth curve that passes through this angular bisector. So, yun yung kailangan natin gawin. Gagawa tayo ng isang perpendicular line. Okay? Now, after nito, tuloy-tuloy na tayo, no? Parang mas konti na yung work na kailangan natin gawin kasi, kumbaga, how do I put this? Parang mag-overlap kasi yung lines. Parang i-recycle natin yung lines onto the next points or onto the next set of lines, and therefore parang slowly i-build natin yung smooth curve natin. So this is the last hard part lang na gagawin natin. So again, gagawa tayo ng perpendicular line. So this is a case wherein perpendicular passing through a point that's outside or along the line. Naalala niyo ba? Along the line, no? Makes sense? Kasi si point S is along this line, and we want to create a perpendicular line along this line. So, we can make a circle, or para lang mas malinis, I'll make an arc, no? So, A for arc, C for center. Tapos, gagawa lang ako ng pseudo endpoints ko dito. Like so. Tapos, I now have these two endpoints. Gagawa tayo ng two circles, one on the left, or one on the bottom, and one on the right. And now, I can connect this one and this one, and I'll extend this line. Extend lang natin. And extend din natin to to make them meet para mahanap natin tong center point na to. Okay? And let's just label this as, para lang malinaw, let's call this as point 1. And tama, point 1. And para mas obvious din, I'll mark it with a point. Para mas obvious. Okay, so that's point 1. Point 1 is the center of the first smooth curve na gagawin. Or the first segment, I should say, no? The first segment of the smooth curve. Okay? Okay, papahabol ko muna kayo. So again, what I just did was to create a perpendicular bisector passing through point S. Tapos extend it until it meets the angular bisector na ginawa natin. And once we did that, mahanap na natin si point 1, which is the center of the first segment of the smooth curve. And siguro I can trim this down para lang mas malinis, no? I'll just trim down kasi obvious naman na ito ay angular bisector. Okay. Okay. And pwede siguro i-trim ko to, no? Para hindi ganun ka gulo. Probably trim this as well. Oh no, sorry. Yan. Para malinis. In your case, no, hindi nyo naman kailangan i-trim lahat para maging malinis. As long as it's understandable naman kung ano yung mga construction lines nyo. Or at least hindi ganun kadami yung circles na involved, no? Tapos I can still make sense of it. Okay lang naman yon. So, pero kung sobrang daming circles, I can consider it as a sort of parang messy yung work nyo. So, baka may konting deductions. Pero, for the most part, you can, trim some of the unnecessary lines. Especially if they are circles, no, na paulit-ulit lang copying of distances, parang i-delete nyo na lang yung mga circles na yan. Okay? So, ito. Nahanap na ba yung point 1? So, if you found point 1, and I'll shift to my final answers layer, gagawa na tayo ng first segment ng smooth curve natin. So, I'll use arc, then press C for center. Click this as the center. Tapos, gagawa lang ako from the starting point, the first tangent, moving towards the second na tangent point. That is our first smooth curve. Okay? If mali yung just press control para ma-control nyo yung direction ng arc ka. Okay? You can also create a circle tas trim na lang afterwards. Pero I suggest using arcs for this, no? Okay? Habol muna. Okay, so you can imagine the next few steps, no? Parang uulitin lang natin yung ginawa natin. Pero this time, it should be a lot easier for us. Kasi hindi nyo na kailangan gawin yung perpendicular line dito. But because if you connect point 1 with the second tangent point, perpendicular line na yan. Kung pwede, dire-diretso lang siya, passing through. Kung saan siya mag-intersect dito sa next angular bisector, yun yung second section. Okay? Tapos, you just repeat that pattern, no? Okay, so let's start. Let's try the second tangent point, the second segment of our smooth curve. So again, ang kailangan lang natin is the center of the second segment. So gagawin natin is I'll shift back to my construction layer. Tapos ang gagawin ko is I'll connect this center with this tangent point. So this one is the perpendicular line. So if I extend this, you can use EX or just lengthen. Alam ko nandito yung center. So I just need the angular bisector dito. If I intersect it, mahanap ko yung next center. Okay? So angular bisector tayo ulit. What I can do is pwede ako mag-create ng 3 circles lang dito, no? Circle, 1 circle, tas 3 circles pa ganyan. Tama? So now, this is the angular bisector. Okay? Now, I extend this. Where they meet, yan si point. Let's call this as point 2, no? Point 2, signifying the center for the second na segment of our smooth curve. Okay? Now, we can copy the we can move this, copy the distance kasi yung same distance na to will be the distance of the next tangent point din. So, we can do is create another arc, A, C, dito sa vertex. Tapos, ito, from this tangent point, move lang natin siya, lipat natin siya dito. Where it touches, that's the second tangent, the third tangent point, I mean. Okay? Ganyan. Now, we are able to create the, and let me just trim this down para hindi ganun ka-confusing. Ito ay parang ano lang. This is the perpendicular bisector, no? So now, I can move into my final answers layer. Tapos A, C, or arc, center, 2. From this tangent point, moving, and I'll hold control to reverse the direction, moving towards this tangent point. Okay? Parang ganyan. Yun yung second na smooth curve natin. Sige, habol muna kayo. The third one is the third curve will be the most confusing one. So dito na medyo natitrip up yung mga students, no, because it's on the same side. Parang it breaks the pattern, no, na nag-alternate siya from one side to the next side. So try to figure out on your own, pero later on ituturo ko kung paano siya gagawin, no. Okay? So most students nalilito pag if it's on the same side, no. Kaya purposely dinagdag ko talaga tong kasi doon sa given module parang ganyan lang yung given, tapos smooth curve siya along this zigzagging pattern. Pero we can actually create smooth curves kahit on the same side or same curvature, no, hindi nag-shift yung curvature. Okay? Habol lang muna. And the next part will be a little bit confusing. You're up to speed na kung umabot na kayo dito. Try to experiment. How would you do it? If you notice the pattern, tingin nyo ano ba yung kailangan nyo gawin para ma-create yung smooth curve, yung next smooth curve na. Can you figure out? What happens if it's on the same side? Instead, you'll still need the angular bisector. That's a given. Pero ano yung ipapa-intersect mo sa kanya? Napagawa yung second set. And don't forget to save your work, no? Kasi baka biglang mag-crash. Okay? Most of you have caught up, no? So, some of you have already figured it out kung paano siya gagawin yung next curve. So, the pattern still remains the same, no? Ang kailangan lang natin is the perpendicular line or the perpendicular bisector and the angular bisector. So, if I connected this point, itong si point 2 and the, sorry, let's shift back to construction layers. Ito, if I connected this center right here, si center 2, with the tangent point, I have created the perpendicular line. And in the previous step, pinalusot natin siya, no? Para pinalusot natin siya dito kasi nasa opposite side yung angle. Pero since it's in the same side here, hindi na natin kailangan i-extend onto the other side. We can retain it here. So, ang gagawin lang natin is to just create another angular bisector here and make it intersect this perpendicular bisector. Okay? So, let's just do 3 circles. Ito. Copy, copy. And now, I can connect this point and this point. And that's my angular bisector. Just extend it. Where it meets, yan na yung center 3 natin. And let me just trim this para lang mas malinis. And I can do, label ko lang to. I'll do center 3. Let's mark it with a point para mas malinaw. And pwede ko nang ilipat itong tangent na to doon sa kabilang side naman, no? Para alam ko kung ano yung ending tangent point niya. So I can do arc A, C for center, then click this point papunta dyan. And now I'm ready for the final answer. Smooth curve na tayo. A for arc, C for center, click point 3. Starting from this tangent point, press Ctrl to reverse direction, tapos click onto the last tangent point. And you have finalized your smooth curve. And you can keep going, no? Pagka dinagdagan nyo pa ng more lines, then you just add more segments to your smooth curve, no? So that's how you create your smooth curves. Okay? Pwede siguro sa plate, papagawa ko sa inyo is parang inimagine ko, parang kaya mo gumawa ng Fibonacci sequence, no? Parang mag-smooth curve tayo, Fibonacci sequence. I think possible yun. Inisip ko lang kung kaya ba. Kung paano yung mukhang doable nga. Baka something like that, no? Okay? So, we have 1 hour left. So, the remaining 1 hour, we'll dedicate it to itong mga challenges, no? Ito maganda to. Very challenging itong 2 problems na to. This one, this challenge right here, and this challenge right here. Itong dalawa. I think kaya natin both, pero at the very least, gusto ko magawa natin itong first challenge na to, no? Kasi ito medyo mahirap siya. Pero feel ko kaya nyo on your own to. Okay? Let's start with dito siguro. Trim lang natin tong and I'll unlock the zeroth layer. Trim ko lang tong side na to kasi I'll need more space, no? Pwede siguro ganyan. Okay. Tapos, I'll lock it again. So, tapos dito ako gagawin. So, I'll just say practice problem 1. Or, pwede naman challenge 1 na lang. Challenge number 1. So, the challenge is, given the radius, draw an arc externally tangent to circle A, pero internally tangent to circle B. So, challenge 1 is, given a radius R, draw an arc internally tangent to circle A and externally tangent to circle B. So, this is the challenge, no? Yan. Okay. Sige. I'll have to input exact numbers, no, para ano tayo. Kasi posible na if we just use arbitrary numbers, baka walang solution yung lalabas. So let's take exact numbers, no. Let me just roughly estimate. Wait lang Screenshot ko lang muna. Ba't wala? Wait lang. Save ko lang to. Test. Wait lang Wait lang Mabagal yung PC ko. So I just need to set up the problem, no, para sure na may solution tayo. So ba't ang bagal? Paint lang binubuksan ko eh. Yan. Shift tayo ba? Ayan. Okay. Touch. Test. Measure ko lang Let's do 16. 26. 75. Okay. Okay. 6. R1 is 63. Okay. Paki-create itong dimensions na to. Okay. So with this, same dapat tayo ng setup, no? So, what we'll do is gagawa tayo ng first one is a radius of lipat lang ako sa zeroth layer ko. So it's radius of 63 yung size, so 63, and let's call that as R. Tapos we create our first circle that is 16 yung radius. Tapos let's mark the center. Tapos let's label it as circle A. This is circle A now. Ito circle B. Tapos para lang guided tayo kung saan ilalagay sa circle B, let's draw a 75 unit line that is 56 degrees from the horizontal. Parang ganyan. Drawing lang tayo para lang alam natin kung saan ipa-place itong si circle B. Okay? Yan. Okay? Tapos, yung radius ni circle B would be, radius? 26. And let's mark the center with a point. Let's label din natin siya circle B. Okay? And now, I'll just unlock it temporarily. Remove ko lang yung line, no? Hindi ko na kailangan to. Okay? So, yan yung setup natin. Okay? And let's try to do the problem. This is a quite challenging problem, no? Kasi kailangan simultaneously siya internally tangent to one of the given circles, pero at the same time, externally tangent siya to the other one. So, the challenge really is, how do you imagine yung solution nito? If you just think about it, ano yung itsura? Internally sa A ba? Internally sa A, external sa B. So, how would that happen? Pwedeng, ganyan, no? I'm just roughly estimating. Parang ganyan. Pwedeng ganito. Tama? Satisfied yung condition, di ba? Internal siya dito, external siya dyan. Tapos pwede rin baliktad yung nandito na side. So, dalawa actually yung solutions, ano? Kasi internal pa rin naman dito, external siya dito. Pero ang challenge is, dapat ganito yung radius. Okay? So, how do we simultaneously satisfy the two conditions? We do this through the concept of loci, no? Yung sinasabi natin last meeting, yung meron tayong locus or loci, which is multiple na locus. Tapos each of the locus will satisfy one of the given conditions. So pwede, ang i-set up natin is si locus number 1 satisfies the condition that it is internally tangent. Tapos si locus number 2 satisfies the conditions that it is externally tangent. And if we allow the two loci to meet, it will give us the solution. The center of the circle that will produce this arc or this arc. Okay? So malinaw ang goal natin? Tama? Sige, let's try it, no? So what does it mean to have a internally tangent line, internally tangent arc? Di ba pag internally tangent arc, we are moving paloob? Tama? Tapos pag externally tangent, we are moving palabas. So let's do the externally tangent arc first kasi ito mas readily imaginable, no? So, gusto natin na, ayan, mukhang lalagpas tayo sa papel pala dito. Okay lang. Dapat pala, buong page ata dapat gagamitin natin dito. Sige, adjust ko lang konti, no? Mukhang kailangan ko ng, ito, lahat ng to, no? Buong space. Move lang natin. I'll just move this. Move it. I'll just move it to the center here. Kasi I think we will need a lot of space, no? As I'll also move the problem dito. Then lock lang natin ulit. Okay? Move lang natin. I'm imagining the solution medyo malaki yung kailangan na space, no? Okay? So, lipat nyo na lang sa last worksheet natin. Tapos just remove all the window borders para one big border na siya. Okay? You can use the move command M. Okay? Eto pala, since we're already in the desktop mode, no? And some of you might already notice it, but if you hold the mouse button, ang mangyayari is you actually enable the lasso tool, no? So it gives you more control of the selection. So pagka hindi nyo hinold down, kunwari single click, tas single click ulit, marquee tool or rectangular tool yung lalabas. But if you hold it down, you have what we call as the lasso tool, no? And it gives you more control. Okay? So, the first one we'll do is the externally tangent one because it's easier to imagine, no? Kasi, di ba, pag externally tangent, we are moving away from the given circle. Tama? So, if we just draw an arbitrary line, so, punta mo na sa, doesn't really matter. I'll just draw an arbitrary line here. And I add this radius. Ito. Add this radius here. Parang kunwari ganyan. And I'll just mark it with a point. Or, better yet, trim ko na lang to. Para mas malinis. Parang ganyan. So, kumbaga, dinagdag ko lang yung radius R dito sa labas. An arbitrary line, no? So, this condition here can possibly satisfy. Tama? Kasi if I do this, this is externally tangent. Tama, no? Pero, hindi pa niya nasa-satisfy yung internally tangent part. So, this is one location, pero hindi natin sure. Now, if I take a random line again, kunwari ganyan, just take it here. Tapos, make it, add the radius again, kunwari lang, just for you to imagine, no? And I'll trim it. This is another possible location. Tama? And if I do this, another random line here, add the radius again. Tapos, trim it down. Parang ganyan. This is also another possible location. And you'll notice na all possible locations actually follow a certain path. Tama? And tingin nyo, ano yung path na yun? A circle? Arc? Circle, no? Tama? Parang a circle siya that is R distance away from the circumference. Tama? So, kunwari, if I draw a circle from here to here, notice how lahat sila magpo-fall along that path. Tama? So, ibig sabihin, ito actually yung locus number 1 natin. Or in our case, sinabi pala natin na si locus number 2 yung external, no? So, this is actually locus number 2. All points along this path satisfies the condition na yung center ng arc na mapuproduce natin will always be externally tangent to the given circle B. Okay? So, this is locus number 2. So, actually, ang kailangan lang natin is, hindi natin kailangan tong, if you were solving this, in-add ko lang yung tatlo para just for imagination purposes, no? Pero, actually, you only need just one. Tapos, pwede mo nang i-create itong locus number 2. And I'll just trim it down para lang, mas malinis yung work. So, hindi siya lumagpas sa border. So, Etong condition na to, this is, and para lang mas malinaw, I'll label it as locus 2. Again, locus 2 satisfies the condition, and let's mark it para lang obvious. Locus number 2 is externally tangent. Yun yung condition na sinasatisfy ni locus number 2. Okay? Arbitrary lang yung... Hindi naman, hindi siya arbitrary. Kailangan mag-touch. Yung ito, distance. Ito yung dinagdag natin yung radius, R. Siya yung ito. Kumbaga, dinagdag natin si radius R. So, all of locus number 2 is that it is the condition wherein it is R radius away from the circumference of circle B. Okay? Ay, sorry. Externally siya to B. Tapos internally sa A. So, inuna ko lang muna yung B kasi mas madali siya ma-imagine, no? Si A kasi, halos same lang naman ang gagawin natin sa A, pero kumbaga may weird imagination tayong gagawin sa A, no? Parang involving negative radiuses, parang if you can call it that, no? Okay? So this is locus number 2. Now let's try locus number 1, no, which is satisfies the condition that it is internally tangent to A. Ano sabi natin sa internally tangent? Instead of moving outwards, we're moving inwards. Papasok tayo papunta dun sa center, tama? Ng given circle A. So if we imagine that, pwede tayong maglagay ng arbitrary line. And I'll temporarily enable nearest para lang mas ma-imagine nyo. So from any circumference dito, parang ang mangyayari kasi is, I'm moving inwards, no? And notice how, because I'm moving inwards, and the radius is much larger than the given radius, parang susobra siya. Okay, so I'm moving it inwards. So itong distance na to, I'm moving it inwards like so. Papasok kasi ako. Tama? So, this is one possible location. Ganyan. That is one possible location. Tapos, let's apply the same logic doon na ginawa natin kanina. Sabi natin, kung yan yung first possible location, pwede rin magkaroon ng location like this. Parang ganyan. And let's copy the radius again. Moving inwards again. So, from the circumference, moving inwards, ito yung possible location. No? So, parang may concept na parang may negative radius ka kasi it's RA minus a larger R. So, it's a negative radius. Pero, technically, hindi siya negative. Wala namang negative talaga na radius. No? So, parang it's moving inwards. Tapos, if you take another one para lang to complete the imagination, no? Again, you don't have to do this. I'm just doing this for imagination purposes. You can imagine that this one, from the circumference, you'll notice that all possible centers for the internally tangent condition also follows a certain path, and that path is also an arc or a circle. Tama? And it's actually this circle right here. Ito siya. Notice how naglalay sila lahat papunta dyan. Okay? So which means that actually, again, similar to what we did earlier, no, sa externally tangent, hindi nyo kailangan yung tatlo. I'm just drawing it para lang mas ma-imagine nyo. Pero kailangan nyo lang is isa lang talaga, no? Which is a line moving from the circumference of circle A, moving to the center, and it goes backward a negative distance. Okay? Again, negative distance, quote-unquote negative distance siya because the radius R is much larger than the given radius RA. So, which means na parang negative. Kasi if you try to put it, para siyang the radius is equal to RA minus the given radius R. So, let's say R prime. Parang ganyan. So, parang negative tong lalabas dito, di ba? Because RA is smaller than R. Parang ganyan. So, the concept of the negative radius is sort of like it's moving backwards further past the center. So, eto siya. Okay? And it forms a circular path concentric with circle A. So, if I now create a circle like this, that is all the conditions that satisfies, or that is all the points that satisfies the condition that it is internally tangent to circle A. Tulad ng pinakita ko sa demonstration, no, na parang if you take any random direction, parang it will always fall within this circular path. Okay? So, we can say na ito, actually, si locus 1, which satisfies the condition of internal tangency. So, internally tangent na condition. Okay? Tangent pala nila ito. Okay? So, notice how yung solution natin, again, hindi nagmamatter kung anong direction pinili nyo. You will still arrive at the same conclusion. Tama? Itong line na pinili ko na to, yung arbitrary line na pumasok ako dyan, arbitrary lang yun, no? Pero if you choose a different line, you will arrive at the same locus. Hindi nagmamatter. Tama? So, notice how dalawa yung intersection between locus 1 and locus 2, which is exactly as we predicted, no? Na dalawa yung magiging final answer. So, ang sagot is, and I'll mark it with the final answer na. Ito, this is point 1 and this is point 2. So, this is, I could say solution 1. And this is, we could say solution 2. Again, this is still the center, no? Center pa lang to. Hindi pa siya yung actual arc itself. This is still the center. Kailan pa rin natin gawin yung loci. So, to find the center, it's as easy as just connecting the centers with their respective with the respective centers of the given arcs. So, ang gagawin lang natin is go back to construction layers. I'll just connect solution. Kunwari, I'll check solution 1 first. If I connected this one with this, and I'll extend it kasi externally tangent siya. So, it's externally tangent here. This is the tangent point. Tapos, eto naman, I'll connect it with this. Tapos, connect it with B. And since it's externally tangent, eto na yung tangent point. So, this is eto. I'll mark it with tangent. Let's just say tangent A. Tapos, eto naman is this point right here. Tangent B. And mark it with a point, no? I'll just say tangent A. Tangent A1. Tangent A1 to specify na it belongs to solution 1. Ito naman, tangent B1 to specify na it belongs to solution 1 again. Okay? So, to finalize, final answer, I just create an arc. So, A, arc, C for center, dito, from this tangent. And notice, lumabas, kung napapansin nyo, hindi ko alam kung kita nyo, no? Pero may bilog na lumalabas, no? Which means that, truly, it's a tangent point, no? Kasi diba, yung bilog na symbol is the tracking point for tangent points, no? Okay? So, ito, tangent. Tas notice how dito, lumabas ulit yung bilog. And, just to make it more clear, no? Gagawin ko is, i-remove ko lahat ng what you call this? Lahat ng snapping points para maiwan yung tangent. And if I do arc, center, notice how this one, hindi na lumabas. No. Wait. Kailangan natin yung intersection. Hindi mo siya mapilit. Kahit intersection lang. Or endpoint. Ay, kaso, hindi ko yata ma-make yung point ko, no? Hindi na lumabas. Anyway, parang biglang hindi siya lumabas, no? Parang pinahiya ako dito. Wait lang. Sorry. Sige, okay na to. Ito lahat yung ginawa ko. Okay? So, in any case, ito, if I create an arc, yan, lumabas na siya ulit. Grabe talaga ito. So, yan yun. I have created the first condition now, which is internally tangent to A, externally tangent to B. And if you want to be more accurate, you can lengthen this one, no? Para to show that it is a tangent arc that meets the other arc exactly at one tangent point. Okay? Pwede nyo i-lengthen, no? No need to lengthen. Okay lang naman kahit hindi nyo i-lengthen, no? Pero it's just good practice. Okay? Now, let's find solution B. Solution B is, or solution 2 is just again connecting this point with this point. Tapos extend nyo lang siya. And nag-overlap na sila, no? So, be careful. Extend it. Where it meets, yan yung tangent point. Ito. Medyo overlapping sila, no? Ito, this is tangent point at A for solution 2. Tapos dito naman sa kabila, if I connect solution 2 with this one, ito naman is the other tangent point. So, this is tangent at B for solution 2. So, tan B2. Okay? So, now, I can do the same. Lipat ulit ako sa final answer layer. Then, do arc, center, at solution 2. Tapos, dito sa tan A2, connect ko siya and I'll hold control para mag-reverse yung direction papunta dito sa B2. And I can extend para lang just to show na it's an it's a tangent arc, no? Okay, and I also extend this one. So, ito na yung magiging final answer ko. Okay, so I have two solutions. Solution 1, and it's exactly how we imagine it, no? Dalawa yung magiging solution. Okay, malinaw ba? We can do one more. Try lang natin kung hanggang saan tayo abot dun sa last problem natin. Ano ba yung itsura ng sagot natin? Check na ba? you did it correctly, dapat mag-meet talaga sila, no? Kasi, this is our distance away. This is also our distance away. Because we made it in that manner, no? Kasi if you notice, diba lahat ng points dito along this solution 1, along this locus, is our distance away. So meaning, dapat R talaga yung pagka nag-measure tayo from solution 1 to dito. Same with this one. It is our distance away from the circumference, moving inwards. So ito, our distance away from it. From this circumference, move the r distance away from the center. Tapos kung saan siya mag-end, kunin mo from the center at gawa ka ng circle. Hindi mo idadagdag sa labas, ha? Kasi internally tangent siya, eh. Externally tangent pag dinadagdag sa labas. Internally tangent pag from the circumference, move inwards ka. Okay? Sige. Feeling ko, marami sa inyo nalito kung anong radius nito. Tama, anong radius ni this for locus 1, no? So again, di ba sabi natin, we're moving inwards kasi, no? So moving inwards is like saying that you are deducting. Tama? So let's say na R prime is the radius of locus A. Locus 1. So, ang mangyayari kasi dyan is R prime is equal to radius of A minus the given radius. Pero notice na ito, magne-negative to, di ba? So, parang negative radius siya. Pero technically, it's still a radius just moving in the opposite direction. So, if you really think about it, ang radius actually ni R prime is just equal to 16 minus 63. Which is, anong result ito? Negative 40, 47? Negative 47. Which is, yung negative number in real world is just saying na nasa opposite direction ka. So ito, equal lang yan sa 47. So if you try to measure this one, and kung tama yung ginawa natin, if I measure this distance, MA radius, this should be 47, no? And lalabas 47 nga siya. So the radius is 47. 47. Okay, and the way we did it was, we started here sa isang arbitrary na point in the circumference. Then connected it to the center A. Now, in-extend lang natin by R amount. So, from here, move lang tayo R amount. And nag-end up tayo dito. And we use that from center A to this one, create na tayo ng circle. Okay? But if you try to do the math, ganito yung mangyayari, no? So, it's like, or pangit yung sinasabi kong negative distance, no? It's more of saying na the radius of R is just the absolute value of the difference between RA and R. Tama? Kasi again, for internally tangent arcs, you are saying na you are moving inwards, which mathematically implies that you are deducting. Tapos, if you are moving outwards, mathematically, it implies that you are adding the radius. Kaya dun sa, dito, etong radius na to, this is actually RB plus R. Which is, if we do the math, dun sa locus number 2, no? It's 26 plus 63. So, kung tama yung ginawa natin, this should be 89. Tama? So, try to measure MEA radius, eto, it's 89. Sakto, 89 siya. Okay? Pero again, hindi mathematical yung approach natin, no? Geometric yung approach natin. Ang ginawa natin is dinagdag natin, which is the point of geometric constructions, no? Hindi naman dapat tayo gumagamit ng math. Through geometric constructions, gumagamit tayo ng geometries, drawing certain certain geometries to find solutions to problems. Okay? Okay, so again, if you're confused, nirecord ko naman. You can watch the recording. Just watch it in 2x speed kasi baka mabore kayo, no? Tapos, try nyo i-follow along and try to make sense kung bakit ganun yung step-by-step na solution natin. Okay? Kaya nyo pa ba isa? Sa mga problem? Or mas... One more problem. Ito, sir. Check ko lang ito kung madali lang ba gawin. Draw a circle A with diameter D and tangent to both given lines. Parang doable to. Kaso kailangan kong i-set up do I want to do this? Gusto nyo i-try? 15 minutes. Baka hindi na kaya, no? Ipahinga na lang muna natin yung mga utak natin. Tapos, bukas, plate work na pala tayo bukas. Tama? Magpe-plate na tayo bukas. Thursday, kasi natapos natin yung lessons for plate 1, no? So, stop ko lang yung recording, no? Let me stop the recording.